Today on One Day Leader, the contestants tackle the issue of service delivery protests in our country in an almost forgotten part of the Gauteng province. Ralocha, good evening, South Africa. My name is Tumelon Mototwane, and welcome to this week's One Day Leader episode. Now, we're coming to you from our SABC Henley studios right here in Johannesburg. Now, service delivery is a common phrase used in South Africa to describe the distribution of basic resources such as water, electricity, sanitation, infrastructure, land, as well as housing. And before the year 1994, South Africa had over 2,000 municipalities. But today, with a population of approximately 52 million people, South Africa has 278 municipalities with an average of 172,000 people per municipality. Now, this year alone, the country is steering towards the local government elections, and with over 14,740 service delivery protests which were recorded in the country till May 2015. Of course, that's taken from a report on the Citizen newspaper. It's clear that the country has reached a crisis point. But today, the contestants investigate why South Africans resort to service delivery protests and also look at how we can eradicate these to ensure that we as a country are happy with the way resources are distributed. Now, please go to our Facebook page. We are One Day Leader SA to leave all your comments, or you can tweet us at One Day Leader. Of course, hashtag One Day Leader. Now, we have 6 incredible leaders who have a great vision for South Africa. And to start off with these, of course, vision statements, we'll start with leader number 1. His name is Debrief. Minty.
I envision a country where every young person has the ability to network, self-brand and commercialize themselves. I envision a country where we can push entrepreneurship and stimulate economic growth so that every single member of the youth moves from being a job seeker to becoming a job creator.
Thank you so much, leader number 1. All right, let's move on now to leader number 2. Her name is Natasha Sisek.
I envision a South Africa where endless possibilities are the new normal and daily mantra of South African citizens. My vision for South Africa entails seeing innovative enterprise development and education as core poverty reduction strategies.
Thank you so much, our lady in red. All right, let's move on now to leader number 3, and his name is Tammy Boy.
South Africa's growth depends on its disadvantaged communities. What we need to do is to develop the township community so well that it can compete with the macro economy. What we need to do is to take the stokvel to the investment bank.
All righty then, thank you so much, gentlemen. Well, leader number 4 goes by the name of Nandile Mlambo.
I am passionate about nation building, and my vision is to empower young people to realize their greatest potential in this country.
Thank you so much, young leader. All right, let's move on now to leader number 5, and his name is Sydney Madib.
I envision a South Africa that we all pride ourselves in, where we all work collectively to turn it into the utopia it rightfully is, where there's mutual respect and tolerance, and where we collectively move South Africa forward.
Thank you so much, leader number 5. For last but definitely not least is leader number 6, and her name is Ludekazi Ndlanzi.
A South Africa that is not limited by jurisdiction, a country where, upon idea generation and strategic planning, horizons are broadened. I see socio-economic challenges in all various spheres rectified, with all potential maximized. In a land alive with possibilities, South Africa, think innovation, see global and act local.
Thank you so much, leader number 6. Well, thank you so much to all our leaders for their vision statements. And just a reminder to you that before we look at our scoreboard, our judges for this season have a chance for a save on one of the eliminations. But to see how the candidates are now doing, let's have a look at our scoreboard for this week. This week's viewer scoreboard has Debrief Minty leading the pack at 1,755 viewers' votes, and Sydney Madibo as the last person on the list with 136 votes. Debrief gets 2 points and Tammy gets 1 point. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's how our leaders are performing this week. But to make sure that your favorite leader is not left at the mercy of the judges, please vote for them. And our voting SMS line is 33121, and this is how you get to vote. To vote for your favorite leader, vote Leader 1, Debrief Minty. Leader 2, Natasha Sising. Leader 3, Tammy Boy. Leader 4, Nandile Mlambo. Leader 5, Sydney Madibo. And Leader 6, Ludwikazi Ndlazi. Now, that is our voting system. Now, of course, you do know that we have our judges responsible for also having a say in who makes it through to the next round. Ladies and gentlemen, let's meet our permanent judges. Tebogo Ditshego is the CEO of Ditshego Investment Group and Ditshego Media. He is also the founder of Read a Book SA. Catherine Constantinidis is the Executive Director of Miss Earth South Africa. She is also the co-founder of Generation Earth. Those are permanent judges, but our guest judge for this week is Mr. Jacob Mamabolo, the MEC of the Gauteng Department of Human Settlements and Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. He's also the Provincial Secretary of the South African Communist Party and a Provincial Executive Committee member of the African National Congress. Now, his political conscience emerged at an early age, informed by the harsh political and economic circumstances of our time. Mr. Mamabolo, thank you so much for your time, of course, today. Now, we understand that you are one person that has used protesting as a way to garner freedom for our country. How do you feel about the increasing, times in the country where we see non-service delivery in the country?
Well, thank you very much. And first, let me just, for the benefit of our viewers, clarify that there's no part of Gauteng that we consider forgotten, almost about to be forgotten. We serve all our communities. But just to confirm that indeed it's true that protests have played a very important role in our country. They've brought us to where we are. And that's why protest is currently, stated in our country's constitution, is confirmed as a very important right. But the problem, however, is just when it turned violent. So protest, otherwise it's okay, it's a form of expression, we don't have an issue with it. Where we are sitting now, and I think many people will agree that protests have gone significantly down at this point. We have built good relations with communities, we are improving our relationships of trust. So the point is protests are very important expression, but they don't have to be violent.
All right, thank you so much, MEC. Now, the judges sent me to give our contestants a task to do a fact-finding mission for this week. Let's have a look. Good morning, leaders.
Morning.
Now, your task for today is service delivery. But before I get into the gist of your task, there's one leader missing. Where's Natasha?
Natasha's just writing an exam at the moment, but she'll be back in the next few hours, so we'll just brief her accordingly.
Now, back to your task for today, leaders. You will, of course, be investigating on service delivery. Now, there's been a couple of service delivery protests in the country, and South Africans are at a point of frustration. Your task will be to go to a certain community in Gauteng where you will have to investigate some of the challenges around non-service delivery. And I'd have to advise you to pack an overnight bag. And the leader responsible for the execution of this task is Sydney. You are responsible for today's task. You may begin.
I'm a bit shaky about being selected as leader, but at the very same time, I'm also as excited.
But at the same time, because passion drives me that much, I'm willing to go there.
Guys, I just got an SMS from Dumi. She says that when we get to where we are going, there will be a community leader by the name of Mapule waiting for us there. Mathata le gore le kopana le ona e leng gore le ka jeko isa rarollo ke a tshwanang le a feng
mathata rena le ona mo mokhukhung ke taba gore go tshwariwa poo bana ba sa ya dikolong ba dula ko dithaveneng go tsobiwa di-drugs and then le dikoloi tse di tlang di dampa ka moara mokhukhu.
Company they kena his small businesses ba fitla with their trucks ba fitla ba kena mona, then they just dump here, and as a result it has a serious problem with regards to pollution, health and safety about to ba dulang mona.
Baba Njoba usuhlalile la since 1995. imaphi ama-developments asebenzeka nje?
Ya, i-development le ngayikhuluma lapha eKai Center ngakhuluma ngama-polo lights nama-toilet
Okay.
nama-tap la amanzi before ama-tap sekangekho.
Baba nje ungasho ukuthi like njoba kune-pollution eningi ukuthi ni-affecta kanjani?
Abanye baphila khona ngoba njengamanje abasebenzi mabatapha amatraka bakwazi unikeza i-R20 azokwazi ukusiza umndeni wakhe athengise yona yakwazi ukudla.
Okay.
Most amatraka angenayo abantu labo abanye umsebenzi abanye batotela iklina bayazithengisa abanye bazakhela indlu.
Okay. Sikashuta baba.
Uziswa yini ngalana baba?
Ngendlala ngibuya eLipompo mina ngize ngizofika la that's why dump play bayifayila. Ngizoze ngiyenza just let the recycling.
Recycling, yeah. Okay.
That's why ngiphila khona la ngisebenza.
Ishuthi imali or income ukwazi ukuyenza through recycling.
Yeah, through recycling.
Kahle kahle yini oyenzayo uthola i-truck ukuthi izolanda.
Makufika i-truck la.
Yebo,
I mean I must get 40 rand for the per truck.
Okay.
So that I can feed my family back home in Limpopo. Simsalani kubuhlungu just kuphila la kule ndawo.
Kunama project afikayo la.
Yebo baba.
Thina so abasiqashi thina. Sibona abantu sibeya.
Mafika project banikana bona bodwa. That's why it's very sensitive.
Baqasha abantu
bodwa.
Singabazi ukuthi babuya kuphi.
Mawungakhuluma uvele ukukhuluma amapengu.
Even namanje ngaya le crash abantu basebenza crash even no one ohlala la ngumazi.
Ungayi la crash uthola ukuthi abantu basebenza kanjani.
Asibazi.
Nikana bona self.
Bona badla
ama-comment. Mangathi bona umsebenzi even angimhlebi lo nangu. Banikana bona kuba kune project le uthola amapedu kuphela. Thina baselipompa amashangana asithole lutho la. Nangu.
For one resident at Kai Sands, the money-making dump has turned into a real problem.
Amathata ke kopalang le hona ne ke hore ke na le ngwana o monyane is 8 months so ngwana o since from birth umpha problem ka lebaka la muso wa ka Marikana ka mo pleke e ba e bitsa Marikana ene pleke yi fail ene wa bona le thepe ya teng a re gone o ga metsi mole a re gone o ga metsi even president a ka se nwele metsi mole even if a ka e bona ko TV a ka se dumela no motho a tla dumelang go dula mo plekeng e so
kore ke metsi ya fail kapa ke moya o fail hona
moya o fail environment why bona le wena ne and then sanitation is good it's not good wa bona
the nearest clinic wa gona o fitla o yona o lo treata ngwana
ke tswa doctor clinic ba ka se mphe ditlhare tsa gore ngwana a sheshe ka o fola wa bona ke tswa doctor ke spend ke bokae consultation 300 rand without prescription wa bona o tshwanetse o kene kae in thong ba re ke kae chemist o late ditlhare doctor o tlo ngwala lengwalo a o ise
uyasebenza khona la usebenza khona?
Not working.
Usebenza. So chaza ukuthi le mali leyo ke consulta uyizame kanjani?
I grant nje phelela khona lapha is 330 I grant le ngiyitholayo.
O bona nkare Kai Sands ke pleke e ka fetogang eo ba ka ithusang.
A ona motho a re thusang wa bona go kopa na o tsha mokhukuri ya kae? Ke o tswa jwang di apare le ngwana ke mathela kae?
Ene le leto le thabisang. It was exhilarating, it was frustrating having to see what people go through on a daily basis, their challenges, having to raise kids in such an area, having to find a job, travel all the way from Limpopo. Most of them were telling us where they come from, Limpopo, from Free State and all these things.
Ndifike khona ikati endlini xa ngena and I was horrified. Ndiyazoyika ikati. I cannot be in the same room as cats. So that was my biggest challenge. Bensoyika ikati and sithe xa sibuza umama why ikhona ikati wathi ke nake kukhona impuku apha and zinkulu. So that's why bene ehlala nekati.
Ke mo le tlo robalang gona ka mona.
Oh, ke hae mona.
La mo reile.
All right. I know mama.
Okay.
It's gonna be raining. I just hope it doesn't leak, ne? How about we go for a jog?
What?
Jump session, bro.
This is not my SABC.
Now, that was quite a mission. It's a tough world that they were sent to. Now, the candidates get to spend the night in Kai Sands, but the question is, what will the experience be like? We find out after this break. Welcome back to One Day Leader. Now, many communities have said that when the country's leaders come into the communities, they don't quite understand their issues because they go back right into their lives while these communities must deal with the problems that they complained about in the first place. And to deal with this, the contestants were requested to sleep at Kai Sands, a community that had no service delivery, with, of course, some of the community members having lived in the area for more than 16 years. Let's have a look at what they did and how they survived their stay in the area.
So experience in re ntse di cheese boy re bontshitse ga shap rona re di cheese boy. Bobane re fitlile ga kena ka mkhukhu wa rona ga bona mkhukhu mnyane blind, and we didn't expect to mkhukhu wa rona be mnyane jwalo bo. A re ne fere gen stress, and then ona le bed da, and really 3 on that one bed. We're like, yo, okay, it's cool. Kila bona like you accepting things as they are, like I know what's making, let me accept this ne. Ga dula ka ntle stupunda ga tswa ga chile ga ba mnat. And then later on we started seeing a lot of rats. Yo, it made us, like, the biggest fear we had was the roto. Like, it was so weird. Like, it's cool. You know? And that was like, it was a funny experience when really treating you at the same time. Like,
I no, definitely they were horrifying, but yeah, I think it's an experience I would never ever trade for anything. And as much as Ben Velen Diaz set up Eganjena, but to be in that situation myself, it just changed me. I think in a nutshell, it changed me in the way I see things.
When you're in university, you always have these intellectual conversations about poverty. You're always talking about how true poverty is relative, poverty is this, poverty is that. Until you actually come to the environment yourself. The experience of poverty is very different from the conversation about poverty. And I think that's what we do too much in this country, is that we don't know what it really feels like because we can't really empathize with the experience. And that's what happened here. It was a moment of empathy. We're empathizing with everything. Now we actually understand.
I know a lot of people speak and they're like, you have to look at the inequality among rich and poor, but you don't actually understand. Many people don't understand how difficult it can be to be in a situation like this.
Nka maswabi ga ke a khona go joina di leader tse dingwe go tloga ba ile ko the township ya Kai Sands because ke ne kwa la exam at my university. So I could not join them, and I did not really like that because I really wanted to be there.
Natasha! People are complaining that they steal literally just anything and everything. You have a scooter, it gets stolen. You have just bought it yourself a new 2-plate stove, gets stolen, right? Because the living conditions there, the standard of living is so low that anything stealable is stolen, right? And this is not now from one person. You'd be amazed. In every single interview that you go through, it's almost as if it's like deja vu, right? They give you the same accounts.
And that breaks my heart because Kona put in Kulumana is on. When Kulumana, he tells me he didn't have enough money to continue his studies in agriculture. And he landed in the squatter camp. Now Namhlanje he doesn't see a future for himself. Sekuphelele khona lapha.
After the break, we have their views after having formed a bond with the community of Kaisands by sleeping over. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to One Day Leader. My name is Unbeknown Mototwane. Now, earlier on, we watched the contestant visit, of course, Kaisands, and that's a close neighborhood to the northern suburbs of Johannesburg, right here in the Gauteng province. And they not only dealt with issues around non-service delivery, but the area is hazardous, and they had some very creepy creatures that they had to deal with during the evening. But for now, I'm going to hand over to leader number 5, Sydney. I understand that you have a message from the community of Kaisands to our MEC.
Basically, the community of Kaisands has lost all hope in government and governance in itself, and this is now across the floor. The concerns that they're raising about jobs, about infrastructure, about the dumping side as well. But I think that the biggest thing that we noticed was the fact that people are occupying that space, and on top of that, it's still a dumping site. If we can start there, to stop having those trucks dump that litter there, then we can actually see a form of progress happening there.
Well, ABC, you did mention that no part of Gauteng is forgotten. What's your response to that?
First, let me thank the leaders for having spent time in Kaisands. I really would like to thank you for that, and for conveying and representing very well, the needs and aspirations of the people of Kaisands. I've been working with the community of Kaisands since we were appointed, and together with the city of Johannesburg. I'd like to say to you that both the provincial government and the city of Johannesburg have prioritized Kaisands as a very important area of intervention, because it's one of those areas that gets more often affected by disasters like fires and so on and so on. But let me assure you that this year, we will see a significant improvement in the living conditions of the people of Kaisands.
All right, thank you so much, MEC. Catherine, do you have perhaps a question for our leaders after that experience?
I do. I'd like, you spent time amongst the people. You had the opportunity to ask questions, to investigate and find out what those challenges were. I wanted to ask, Nandile, you spoke to the gentleman who does recycling. However, it looked more like he was enabling the illegal dumping in order to be a means to an end, because he needs to feed his family. So he would allow the dumping to take place. Did he actually understand what recycling is?
No, well, no, not to that extent, not to the extent of, I could recycle perhaps, plastic containers, for example, and then we can turn that into a plastic bench, that can be donated to schools. So he understands it as far as, I just need to get money. His mindset is it's the survival of the fittest.
Thank you so much, Nandi. Thank you, Catherine. Debo, you have a question?
Yes, I've got a question for Ludwig. After noticing that the community has a problem with nearby clinics and not being able to access free healthcare, you asked a very important question. You asked, are you working and how do you afford this healthcare? And she spoke about being on a social grant. Now, how are we going to resolve the issue of unemployment in informal settlements? I know that we need to create jobs, but if you're in an informal settlement, there are structural issues such as not having electricity, not having any money, any resources to start a business. So how would you approach that?
Okay, in the instance of businesses, we need to understand also that these people are actually battling in a sense that they're underprivileged, and so skills are not somewhat a priority to them. So we need to realize that Kaisands is also a beacon of hope for many, because that recycling dump can be turned into something constructive as a source of energy. So that's when innovation comes in. We need, as South Africa, to come together and find out what is it exactly that we can do to benefit from that dump.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Ludokazi. Thank you so much, judges. Now, the debate question for this week is, how can South Africans become less dependent on government to alleviate the different service delivery protests? Now, before we start with our debates, here are the rules of how we will proceed from this point. Every leader has a set of instructions and disciplines to live by. These are the rules for the one-day leader debates. You have 30 seconds to state your vision statement, 60 seconds for the opponent to challenge, and 30 seconds to conclude your debate. And those were the rules of the debate, but our very first debate is between Leader 1, Zarif Minty, and Leader 4, Nandile Mlambo. We'll start this one with Leader 4, Nandile. You can start your vision statement now.
As service delivery continues to be a remaining challenge in South Africa, I believe that South Africans can be less dependent on government if A, we create partnerships between people and nature, and B, we introduce service delivery implementation programs that promote self-reliance, and this can be learned from international models.
Thank you so much. Well, Zarif, you may now have your 6 seconds to, of course, debate. Start now.
Perfect. Nandi, you're speaking about having, a good partnership between the government and then obviously the environment, but they've actually done that before. It was called the framework of citizen-government partnership, and it's been done for the last 3 years. However, it hasn't really succeeded at all. In fact, it actually failed. So what I'm saying is, for us to have something like that along those lines, we would need to have a partnership with someone outside of government. We can't depend on government when the whole question is all about looking at other dependencies other than your state. So I'm guessing something more along the lines of the private sector, or something that's more feasible, not something that doesn't, really, it's not going to really come from anything. We're not going to even create any opportunities. Another thing that I want to speak about is I spoke about creating a good concept of transferring of skills and all of that as well. I mean, if you're looking at service delivery, it's very important that we concentrate on very important concepts that actually work, like private sectors, like, for example, making sure that you encourage young people to actually gain a mindset of entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Leader 1. Leader 4, what happened there? There was a debate. Now you may round off your discussion.
Okay, Leader, where I'm leading to this is that when looking at South Africa geographically, climate, our coast, mountains translating to solar, wind and pump storage, when we look at that all as resources, it indicates a great opportunity for us to use renewable energy to combat this issue. For example, if you look at Russia, in effort to promote self-reliance and good land stewardship, the Russian government is actually granting land to Russian citizens, to at least 1 hectare of land to Russian citizens for them to use.
Thank you so much, Leader 4.
Resources.
Leader 1, now you may state your vision statement. Begin now.
Okay, in 2015 only, 220 million then was actually spent on contracts that were given out to councillors. 35 municipalities were actually placed under administration. Now, clearly, these are all different concepts that just say that, we have issues in our government, corrupt issues, issues of bad administration. Now, for us to really grow South Africa, we have to get away from being so dependent on the state, and this can only be done through public partnerships and also making sure that we build more of an entrepreneurship mindset. At the same time, use the private sector because they have CSI and CSR budgets. We can really assist
the debate. Okay, when reaching its full production, Eskom's Sea Wind Farm in the Western Cape generates up to 150 megawatts, of solar energy, which is an equivalent of 600 hectares of land, which is equal to 210 soccer fields.
Nandi,
imagine houses placed in 210
private sector.
Soccer fields and using hydroelectric power to actually empower sustainable electricity.
It's
so
very
that's
difficult.
One of the
it's
issues.
very difficult
and
in
then
a third
another
world
thing
country.
that can be done.
It's extremely difficult in a third world country.
Number one, farming leader. Farming.
It's very difficult.
Food security and employment.
I think we need to look more along the lines of the private sector. In the private sector, the CSI and CSR initiatives are exactly what's needed in our country. The corporate social investment.
Less reliable on government because they will be taught, given skills from
it's not something that's feasible. It's not something that can happen in our country. We live in a third world. We live in a third world country.
Further to this, in China, there's the eco-city of Xinjiang.
But you're speaking about China and you're speaking about all these other countries.
Because these are international models that can be looked at.
But we are not China. We are the first world country.
Leader 1, you may now round off your discussion.
Perfect. In closing, we dubbed as the protest capital of the world, where, in fact, we actually have the highest percentage of public protests. Now, that's a good indication to show that it's a direct warning of non-compliance when it comes to financial intelligence, when it comes to mismanagement or bad administration. In fact, it also sends investors away from our country. What we need to do as a country...
How does it send investments away from our country?
Leader 4, this is not your time. Leader 1, continue.
Okay, it's very important that we actually spend our time working on creating better public partnerships and participation. We have to make sure that we develop communities...
Thank you so much, leaders. Judges, this is your moment now to vote. The question we're asking is, how can we use other alternatives, of course, so the country is less dependent on government? So to avoid, of course, protests in the country, we're going to give our judges the time now to vote. And you at home will also have an opportunity to vote for your favorite leader. You can vote leader 1 up to 6 to the number 331. 121. Leaders, I understand that you are done. All right, we're waiting for our feedback at this point. And the winner of this debate is Leader 1, Debrief Minty, Texas 1. A round of applause. Judges, why did you vote for Debrief as opposed to Leader 4?
I think for me, Debrief had his very particular points. He got them across. I felt he did research on the topic and he brought that research to this debate. I felt Nandile attacked him with her own agenda without actually understanding the points he made during the debate.
Deborah, you wanted to pitch in quickly?
I think, Nandile, you've shown a lot of growth over the past few weeks. And you're doing actually much better than before. But I think you need to understand the technicalities of how the debate works. You need to start listening to his discussion, critically analyzing it, and trying to find, loopholes of where it's not feasible, as opposed to just, expressing your own view without listening to the other leader's view.
All right, thank you so much, judges. Now, South Africa, that was our very first debate. We have 2 more debates outstanding, but you'll only get a glimpse of them after this break. Welcome back to One Day Leader. Now, today's topic is service delivery. And if you've just joined us, well, you've missed our very first debate, a heated one between Leader 1 and Leader 4. But don't despair, we have 2 more debates. But our topic is, how can South Africans become less dependent on government to alleviate the different service delivery protests? Now, our next debate is between Natasha Singh, that's Leader number 2, and Leader number 3, Tammy Boy. We'll start this one with Leader 2, Natasha. Your 30 seconds begin now.
In 2002, William Kogamba, a self-taught Malawian teenager, built a windmill to power electrical appliances for his village. Community members are respectfully experts of their own communities, and the path towards less dependency on the government is one that requires innovative service delivery hubs which incorporates community-based approaches using grassroots level strategies.
Thank you so much. Leader 3, come into the debate.
So the crux of the problem of service delivery is the issue of basic needs, right? So issues like water, electricity, etc., right? How does your model actually deal with the basic needs of service delivery that the people are facing, including housing?
Thank you so much. The positive and nice thing about the innovative service delivery hub is, like we see with the example of the Malawian, you find that their community members, it's not limited to cities only. This is a rural village where a community member, may I please just finish? Where a community member did a windmill to power electricity.
But like I said, you're still defending on the state. Because the state, the reason why service delivery happens, the reason why service delivery protests happen is because there's a failure in the state. And you're still depending on the state.
We're not depending on the state. Innovation hubs can be funded. There's a technology called open innovation, where big multinational corporations take small ideas from normal communities and then they use that to also empower communities.
Thank you, Leader 2. You may round off your vision statement.
In closure, with innovation and new technologies, these hubs are relevant across many sectors. Hubs would give birth to and house new innovative ideas created by the community for the community. And we also tap into job creation in a sense that open innovation with multinational corporations actually fund these projects, and that alone will put the community in a good standing in social capital, and it will also focus in empowering the community itself.
Thank you so much, Leader 2. Leader 3, your 30 seconds begins now.
The problem with service delivery right now comes from the fact that there's this huge dependence on the state from these communities, right? And how do you alleviate this dependence? You create a microeconomy within that particular community. And what you start with the basic needs like housing. You create what you call vernacular architecture, where you replace the shacks into rondavels into architecture that they can actually build themselves. It's a model that was applied in Indonesia and in India themselves, right? But how do you start it properly?
Do you agree? You may debate.
You talked about empowering communities and using different structures for housing. Where would the funding from this come from, since they will not be depending on the government? Who would be funding these
Good, thank you very
initiatives?
much.
Would the community also be involved? Will the community also be empowered?
So all
and how
you need,
would
right?
they?
All you need in this particular situation is funding from the private sector to actually kickstart the supply chain that will supply the materials into the community.
May I ask
what kind of a supply chain are we talking about? We're talking about a supply chain that supplies bricks into the community, like energy rejuvenable bricks that
With
don't
South
catch
Africa's
fire,
low
right?
GDP, is that possible?
We have a
People are
thriving
not
private
even
sector. We have a
providing
very good
sponsorship.
private sector
People
within
are not
South Africa
providing
with
sponsorship.
huge budgets,
We
right?
look at this with sponsorship deals that do not go through because South Africa's GDP
Now,
has changed
companies
in
get
the year
huge
2015.
tax breaks from actually sponsoring these rural communities. They have a huge incentive to do this. It's not like companies don't sponsor these
What if
communities
it's not
and
in
they
line
don't get
with the,
these tax breaks.
with the company's corporate social investment?
Look,
What is-
Coca-Cola
what-
can
they
start.
have
Thank you, Leader.
tax
You might as well
sponsorship
round off
deals.
your discussion.
All right, so like the problem with service delivery today and poverty alleviation policies is that they have two assumptions. The first assumption is that the poor is a drain on the economy, and the second assumption is the fact that the poor is unproductive. When you create a microeconomy, you give the people in that community the incentive to actually come up and innovate ideas that they can help themselves, especially with their basic needs.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for that debate. I'll give our judges, of course, time to vote and also decide who they think is the appropriate winner, of course, for this debate. I'll just like to remind you at home that you can also be a judge where you are. Vote for Leader 2 or Leader 3 if you feel, of course, they met your expectations in that debate to the number 33121. And so we can, of course, have the leader that you had admired. All right. Judges, I understand that you've made up your decision, and the winner for this debate is Leader number 2. Natasha wins that debate. A round of applause. Judges, how did you come to that decision? MEC? All right. Deborah?
Well, I think that was the best debate that we've seen so
It
far.
was. Definitely. It was.
So I want to congratulate both of you. You did a great job. What happened is that Natasha was able to mention the funding of her solution within the initial argument. And Tammy, you only managed to mention it after she asked you. But I think you both made great examples with yours, Tammy with Indonesia, and yours with William Kwakwamba from Malawi. It's brilliant. I think both of you did a great job.
And MEC, do you agree?
Well, I do. I must say that these guys are really excellent leaders, and I really liked the example that was given about Malawi. That was very practical, very clear, very good benchmarking, and congratulations.
All righty then. Thank you so much. Congratulations one more time. Leader number 2. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our final debate is between Leader number 6, Ludwikazi Nhlanzi, and Leader 5, Sydney Madibo. Sydney, you will start this debate. Your 30 seconds begin now.
Using renewable energy and traditional methods of agriculture, as well as embedding a deep sense of entrepreneurship in our informal settlements, townships and rural areas is the first step in moving towards a society that is not dependent on government, however, cooperates with it to come up with sustainable solutions to skills transfer, land use, energy creation and job creation. Out of this, we need to assert that what we need to build into our society is not have a one-sided approach to dealing with service delivery. We cannot only look at informal settlements and say that we are going to deal with one solution.
Leader
we need to look at where it all happens.
You speak of entrepreneurship. Can you tell me, when it comes to businesses, and you know that it depends on how good you are in order to survive. So tell me, in terms of business, market share and competition is a very critical point. How do you propose that?
Let me
Because
give you a
people with
simple example.
Inadequate skills, how will they address different reasons, different ways of approaching competition and market share?
I mean, look at a typical example like in session, where you take waste and you convert it into energy, right? So what you would need from that, you would also need to embed into the local schools a very strong sense of mathematics and physical sciences. I'm coming there.
All right.
And then what you would also need to do there, you would also have to look at things such as business and the private sector and how they invest exactly into such projects. We cannot only depend...
I'm not talking about funding, I'm talking market share. When we start entrepreneurship, we start businesses, they're sharing the market. How do you propose that how stable A, stable B survives within sharing the same market in their enterprises?
That is totally relevant to the debate that we're having. What are we talking about? All right. Now, what we need to do, we need to develop members of these communities with the skills to change and uplift their communities. We strengthen cooperative governance, and by so doing, we move them from being dependent on government to cooperating with it. By getting these skills, they will also give back to what they've gotten from the state. It's not only a one-sided approach where they get, but with the skills they have attained, they also use those to give back into their respective societies.
Thank you so much, leaders. All right, Leader 6, your 30 seconds to give us your vision statement begins now.
The gap between the government and the people can be bridged by one of the most prominent role players in service delivery, non-governmental organizations. How? Basic infrastructure development programs, skills transfer. This is a sustainable development program where the community is empowered and actively participates in development processes, thereby transferring responsibility of the community back into their hands. This will ultimately reduce the number of protests, which in 2015 was in fact stated and said to be 14,740.
Thank you so much, Leader 5. You may now debate.
What I want to understand is, I want you to give me a practical example of how we can move the communities from being dependent on government. What are some of the solutions that they can employ in ensuring that they come up with sustainable solutions to not depending on government and alleviating service delivery protests?
We have a non-profit organization where they facilitate the progress within communities like Carsons, where we have the government seater coming in as a potential sponsor, because we are trying to
lessen. I understand that fully. We can have all these seaters, but now people do not have electricity. What is the solution now to alleviating service delivery protests?
We teach them how to make electricity so that there's continuous development in the community, where they know that if there's electricity runs out, they have the skill. You cannot rip that away from them.
And what happens in the interim while they wait to get those skills? What strategies do we employ now?
Non-governmental organizations come in. That's where we are saying that they should move from feeding them to teaching them how to make food. We are saying that they should move from, so in the interim, that's where they come in. The non-government
so you do agree that we need
Thank you, Leader 5. Leader 6, you may round off your discussion.
The different service delivery protests are a result of people's frustrations, unmet expectations, and dissatisfaction. According to the South African president in his 2014 State of the Nation address, he said that sometimes service delivery protests transpire as a result of evident success in delivery by the government, but it is only the people who cannot seem to wait for their turn. This is therefore the vuvuzenzele concept that that NGOs use, that South Africans need to alleviate protests. We are saying that as you wait, do something about it.
Thank you so much. Round of applause for Leader 5 and Leader 6. All right, judges, I'm going to give you your moment to discuss and also vote. Who do you think took that round? Is it Leader 5, Sydney, or Leader 6, Ludo? Guys, I'll give you a few moments, and of course, also motivate you at home to be a judge. Vote for your favorite leader by also using their leader number to the number 33121. You can be judged where they are and help them not to fall at the mercy of just the judges. Also interesting, love, we'll have our audience members voting for their favorite amongst the top 3. So with that said, let's head back to our judges. And the leader that takes that debate is leader number 6. Ludwig, you win that round of debate. Congratulations. Judges, I need to bring it back to you. Why did you particularly think that Ludwig understood the concept of the question?
It's not that I think she understood it better than Sydney, but you came with something so unique to any of the other 5 leaders. You brought in civil society through NGOs, and your closing comments were so powerful that for me, and I think I agree, the other judges will agree, I think you were definitely the strongest in the debate. Sydney, you had good points, but definitely this one was Ludwig's.
Gentlemen, do you agree? Let me see.
Well, the philosophy of our struggle has always been that people are their own liberators. And I think that point resonates well with what she has said.
All right. Thank you so much, judges. Congratulations one more time, Ludo Gazi. Thank you so much, leaders, for those debates. Well, of course, we had some compelling visions on today's topic. And after the break, we found out how our studio audience and you at home have to vote. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to One Day Leader right here on SABC 1. Well, we're in our final phase of our episode where we're discussing the issue of service delivery protests and how they can be eradicated in our country. Now, our audience was watching all the action and now gets a chance to vote for their favorite leader between the three winners that were chosen by the judges. Now, audience, I hope you're ready. Remember that you're choosing between Leader 1, Leader 2, and Leader 6. You may begin your vote. Now, as of course our audience members choose who they think fits, of course, the overall winning debate, I'd like to remind you at home that you can go to our Facebook page, go to Twitter, comment. Did you feel like the ones that didn't win were actually cheated out of winning? How do you feel about your favorite winner, your favorite leader rather, and where they are right now? Vote for your favorite leader to the number 33121. All right. I assume that you're all ready and done. Let's announce who our overall winner is according to our audience members. And the winner who overall impressed our audience members is leader number 6, Ludwikazi. You win the overall debate according to our audience members. Congratulations. Thank you so much, leaders. Thank you so much, audience members as well. And now we have a look at our final scoreboard for today. In the final scoreboard, Debrief has 6 points. Natasha also at 6 points. Tami moves to 3 points. Nandile is still at 0 points. Sydney remains at 5 points. And Ludwikazi leads the pack with 9 points. Well, congratulations one more time, Leader 6, for winning, of course, this round and impressing the audience members. How do you feel?
Overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed, but for me, I think the most exciting thing is the fact that it means that we're a step closer to finding solutions to problems that we're having in our country. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Congratulations one more time, and
so
congratulations to each and every one of you for, of course, having compelling debates today. Well, that's how we come to the end of our episode today. Thank you so much to all our leaders for bringing their A game, and thanks to all, of course, our audience members, our judges, and to you at home for joining us today. Now, next week, we'll be tackling the issue of drug abuse, particularly amongst our youth. I leave you with the words of Mother Teresa when she said, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples." Keep making a difference, South Africa. With that said, my name is Tumelo Mototwane, and from the One Day Leader team, it's a good night.